This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I would like to welcome to the show Terry Batcher.
Hello.
Good morning, Terry. And
Hi,
Harry. Hey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
How you guys doing?
Mm-hmm.
Silence me.
Clear.
Yeah, I want to start out with actually something fun. This last week, I got to experience something I've never experienced before in my life, which I just have to brag and share. But I got to be on the set of the new movie that Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn are making, which was completely exciting because as I watched Leonardo, grow from Titanic and on, I've always thought it would be a wonderful thing to see that man in person. And I have finally checked it off of my bucket list. To watch them work with absolutely amazing. It's like they go into this zone where nothing else around them matters. And we are smack dab in the middle of a busy supermarket because my girlfriend is the property manager of the shopping mall. And she knew that this was going to be taking place. So we hopped on over and spent a couple hours there. She actually spoke to Sean Penn. He seems to be a very amenable guy. Like, he was nice, in fact. And I figured if he was in the middle of working, he would just slough us off, but he didn't, and he patronized other people that were in the parking lot. It was actually a really fun experience.
Nice.
I want to clean up some laundry real quick, and I'm going to put up the PowerPoint presentation to do so. All right, guys. So some jackwagon out there decided they were going to file some type of a suicide watch on me, and they claimed that it 25 seconds in on my video last week on the I-45 killer with Nanette Bartow. I went back to the video and I looked at it, and this is merely the disclosure that my publisher's making at the beginning, telling you you're not going to get advice from us. Seek help from competent specialists or professionals. And I about fell over to see this because it also comes with a strike on your record, which I was not aware of. And basically the message said that, hi, the Zodiac, we have reviewed your content and determined that it may not be suitable for viewers under the age of 18 per our community guidelines. As a result, we've age restricted the following content. I age restrict all of my content to begin with. The second it is uploaded onto YouTube, or not the second, once I address it and it's uploaded, I go in, I change it to not suitable for children, and I place it in the proper video file. So I'm not sure why they don't already recognize that I've been doing this on my own account and that I am listing this as not suitable for children. I hope this doesn't become some type of an issue in the future. It does say that, I'm missing my clicker. Hold up, let me get my clicker. It does say that, we haven't applied. Oh, it says we haven't applied a strike to your channel. Gosh. And your content is still live for some users on YouTube. Keep reading for more details on what this means and steps you can take if you'd like to appeal this decision. I'm not going to appeal the decision, obviously, because I don't believe that what we're talking about is suitable for children. That followed up with we want to help you. We're reaching out because members of the YouTube community, including fellow creators, viewers, or staff, has expressed concern for your safety or well-being after coming across content you posted with topics related to suicide or self-harm. You guys, we've never talked about that.
Yeah, you're over the target. Expect flack.
Well, some jackwagon can just go screw off.
Well, you're in good company with Marjorie Taylor Greene. She apparently gets the suicide watch like once a week, and SWAT teams once a week.
What?
Sorry, but that's the world we live in. My God.
All right. Moving on. Last week, we ended off with the last victim, Brenda Denise Woodward, who was found on the access ramp to Highway 202 in Washington, D.C. area. And this was part of the DC Freeway Phantom murder spree. And of course, there was a note left in the pocket of a jacket that was laid over the top of the victim. It does not indicate whether or not that was her jacket. I don't know if that's something we'd ever be able to find out. I can't really locate a whole heck of a lot of information on it. But we do note that the DC Freeway Phantom goes away after approximately 10 to 11 months. And we see that there's no more murders in Washington, D.C. This letter that he sent out said, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can." So he's admitting to others, and he is stating especially women when these are a series of children that are killed. So I think that this is his secret tie into, through the communication, the work that he has done killing other women as well.
And you put a Z in it too. But I will admit to others when you catch and get the T. Got at least 2 combination JTs on it. And look at that huge F there, and F. This is loaded with Zodiac Jack 101. It's cool.
I haven't studied them for the same things that you have, that's for sure. But I can say that what I did note in regards to this is that the insensitivity to people, especially women, screams that he's killed women because the murders committed here were children. Zodiac citizen letter for the ITI connection. That was one of the things that definitely stood out to me in the handwriting comparisons. As we can see with the sensibilities, we have those tall T's, we have the high dotted I's, we have the very short stems on the eyes. He also says, "Catch me if you can." This is a source from many other letters. "Catch me if you can" started way back. Good morning, Nolan.
Right.
Can you hear me?
You have the partition and admit too.
Right.
Admit. Yeah.
Good morning.
Right. Good morning. So the "Catch Me If You Can," I linked this all the way back to Lipstick Killer, Black Dahlia. This is a running thing. "Catch me if you can," "slow down," "hurry up." I think you talked to me about this, Terry. These references were they military or in regards to time frames?
Military overtones? Yeah. Well, absolutely, yeah. But he's got and admit. That means he put the Z in there. And he put the 2 little colons right behind. He made his little typical, the way he liked to make some of his eyes and the colons.
Right,
right. You know, the symbol for, and then that F up there and if and down below. I mean, it's a big wow. It's a great document you found. It's absolutely
right. And I did find we did include this in the handwriting examination that we did months back. So I know that it has been properly put in there and compared, and we do find consistencies, especially that D in admit. That's that noose D that you talk about, right? From the Ramsey note.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So free has been used as postage to mail previous letters. So I like that he wrote in there free. He is free, right? Way. Freeway has been the dump site of many other victims. The Phantom that he's called the DC Freeway Phantom in this particular killing spree. I don't know who named it that. Might have been the media. But the Phantom has been used in context with the Riverside Phantom, the Texarkana Phantom, the Red Phantom in the Dear Marco letter. Several Phantoms, the Texarkana Phantom. I mean, the Phantoms just keep going on. So the census is that the victim, the census in the information I researched is that the victim hand wrote this note from her own school book based on dictation from the suspect. I said, BS. I can't imagine that you're getting a child who would likely. What's that? You're cutting out.
Yeah, breaking up.
Okay. So that's sensibilities and consternation and other large words like the Zodiac
Killer. Hello, can you hear me?
To use. Yep, I can hear you.
You're pixelating too. Not pixelating, but freezing up.
No,
a little bit.
I see him. Yep, he is freezing up a little bit. All right. So he used these large. Yeah, he used while misspelling on purpose to dumb himself down. So that's the way I look at these misspellings. Not that they
I
are.
look at them as code words too.
That's what Harriet does. She finds
That's what
that
Harriet
means
does,
that
too.
these
Right.
misspellings are indicating some portion of a code with inside the message.
Absolutely.
And I hope she can climb back on here, because that leads us actually to her solve.
Cool.
And when she comes back on, I'm going to go ahead and read it right now. When she comes back on, I'll ask her to explain it. We can hop back. But she believes that this message actually reads out.
There it is. There it is. This is tantamount. Absolutely. She did good work on that one, didn't she?
Yeah. So it was a basic anagram, simple. And it comes out to Nixon, pilot, I hit woman, I, which she believes is incline, V for village, pines, condos, etc. Swearing in, follow me to the Lake County. They may catch me. Who? Terrence, you will help me and my phone associate, Nora Kaufman. TTT, to tell the truth, I'm at Taos, New Mexico, i.e., therefore, I thank you. And I thought that was extremely interesting. And Harriet, are you with us now?
She's not frozen.
Yeah, she's. Maybe try calling in and we'll come back to the solve, Harriet.
Yeah, it's great work, Harriet. I like it.
Try.
Yeah, you're totally not coming through.
Yeah, try calling in, and then I can come back to this solve.
It's frozen.
Yeah,
right.
It's freezing up on you. Bad signal path.
The interesting part about this is the Mexico reference. Now, I know it's stating New Mexico, and we've heard Mexico many times in the language and speak of the serial killer, either to his victims or in other communications. Seems to be the running theme for this individual to indicate Mexico. And I think that we discovered that south of El Paso, just over the border in Mexico, was an actual ranch or a CIA operation, right, Terry?
Well, yeah, and I was going to say it's on Taos, New Mexico. I think that's a lyric from the word Route 66, the song. I'm not sure about the spelling. I'm only familiar with it by verbal, but just point that out while we're here. It's not a big deal. I think this is fantastic work she's done. I hope she gets back here to talk about it.
It's interesting that this letter is also mentioning Nora Kaufman, and Nora Kaufman is presently in Jack's life at this point. So this actually helps to confirm Dennis's story that his mother met Jack in 1971, and his belief was in August.
But the Swearingen one, that's the one that really floors me.
That one's throwing me off. I'm blown away that she's coming up with his information. However,
I'm going to log out and log back in because you're breaking up.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
okay.
Restart your computer.
So I did a brief synopsis. Cool. We'll come back to that because we'll spend more time on it when Harriet's with us. So the DC Freeway Phantom summary that I picked up on, and if there's anything else you want to add, Terry, feel free, but there's a crossing of jurisdictions because they're being abducted in Maryland and found in DC or vice versa. They are shot, strangled, stabbed, bludgeoned, which is the typical Zodiac persona of my MO changes, by rope, by knife, by fire, by gun. And the waterway dump sites are also clearly something that we've notated in many of these crimes.
Another code word, water. Absolutely. Keyword with that guy. Keyword.
We had a letter written that's speaking about women when these are children. So the connection to the other crimes, the call to home from a victim reported a white man. So the call to the family members is very Zodiac-esque. We've seen this happen in many of the crimes. We also have the I-45 killer erupting at this point, and California is actually void of unsolved murders for much of this year. I think I only had one in this whole run of 1971, where after he sends this letter, we see almost nothing that I've been able to actually attribute to what might have been the Zodiac's MO.
It just goes to show you how much trouble one person can make and do. But anyway, go ahead.
As long as they have cover, as long as they're protected.
They have cover too. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. That's even worse then.
The Tim Miller finale letter takes credit for at least 2 phantoms that I can mark, and that I surmise can be the Riverside Phantom, Red Phantom, Texarkana Phantom, Count Marco letter, Red Phantom, DC Freeway Phantom, all unsolved crimes with all the same attributes that we listed above. Jack is all over the map at this point in time. He's back and forth between San Jose and South Lake Tahoe, California, Texas, and Kansas City. I also think that the last murder in the DC Freeway Phantom cases ends locally 6 days before the skyjacking. I changed my language for you, Terry. Skyjacking, where the originating flight of Northwest Orient, hijacked by Dan Cooper in Washington State, begins on that side of the U.S. in D.C. So my research reveals it did originate in Washington, D.C., and I was able to find others who had also concurred on that matter.
That's really cool.
I wanted to show everybody inside the finale letter, which helped me to pull together many of these crimes. We see that the very first kills, he says right here and this is I'm going to guess that this says 70s. Because I don't see anything down here at the bottom that actually indicates that it's an 80. And he already talks about the 80s. So up here, he says, this monster in me that makes me kill other Caucasian girls with brown hair, second in the 80s series, or the League Cities Field of Death, the hundreds of the I-45 deaths, all the ones with brown hair and who are white and look enough like her, now and then some from a convenience store phone. I'm not the only one killing girls, Tim. No Mexican, no yellow, and I'm thinking what he put in here was no Chinese. Ain't killed by me. The very first kills in the 70s series was some other guy too. So I believe he's definitely talking about 2 different time frames, and the beginning of the I-45 killings and the entrance or the introduction of these new murders that are picking up in the Galveston area of Texas can be directly linked to the author of this letter, and I've directly linked the author of this letter to many of these crimes. We go through and we start to see other things like the word phantom is mentioned here, the phantom ? And again, over here on the second page, the phantom ? again.
Emphasis on the word Tom on phantom too, by the way.
Right. Yeah, and this is 2005, and he's already reached out to Tom Voigt twice. So this is in, and also look up here, Tom Humble in the return address. Now Humble, he actually, when he wrote Tom, he actually said, "My humble offer is."
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That led me to the statement, Super Fudge Works Well. When I looked up Super Fudge, I found that was a 4th grader book written by Judy Bloom out of Humble, Texas. Mm-hmm. And if anybody doesn't know this already, Humble is this tiny little town on the outskirts of the border of Bush International Airport. Wow. Just a little tidbit of information.
Yeah, so he cross-connects everything, doesn't he?
Well, right here, he says, you could look for my clues. His clues are there, and I'm telling everybody here, I'm putting those clues together. And he says my MO changes, just like we just discussed. So this is how I put a majority of these crimes together. We've got Harriet back with us. I wanted you to help us go over your solve. Are you able to see this right now?
Yeah, just go ahead, because I know my solve, because that took me 15 minutes to do that. So
that's awesome.
I was like, forward. Yeah.
So who is Nixon Pilot?
Oh my God, the pilot he's referring to is the very dead Lauren L. Swearingen.
I see him on Facebook right now. I don't know that he's dead.
He's dead. Somebody's impersonating him. And I think I know him, so I don't want to get us into lawsuits.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
So it says, Nixon Pilot, I hit woman, Incline Village, Pines, condos, etc. Swearingen followed me to Lake County. They may catch me. Terrence, ! Will you help me and my phone associate, Nora Kaufman, ? TTT. To tell the truth, I'm at Taos, New Mexico, i.e., therefore, I thank you. So, what is Taos, New Mexico?
I think that has something to do with Nora Kaufman's family, her genetics, it's her family tree, but it's also near apparently some where a bunch of brilliant minds for NASA were working. It's not too far from the laboratory.
Oh.
From the laboratory there. I had to do some cross-referencing. I said, wait a minute, this is bringing back a lot of memories about, what we've tried to look into about, Nora's history of Chaco Canyon. NASA very interested in that area. You have Operation Paperclip people that most likely went there. So it's he's in a place where he's feeling quite comfortable, even though it's,
Do you recall? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you recall the Constellation Mountains, a place that Jack had gone to camp? Dennis told a story that Jack told a story. He went in with 3 people and came out with 2, which would indicate that they killed somebody that was with them. Do you know where Constellation Mountains is? Was that in New Mexico or Arizona?
It's down there in that high desert, if I remember correctly. So it's, we're talking about something that's very familiar to them, the Constellation Mountains. I think that's in, it's in the Arizona area, I believe. So people, if they can, but it's indirectly connected. That area of Dallas, Mexico, the scientists, so much going on there. Good Lord.
Right. All right, so my phone associate, Nora Kaufman. So you believe we know that that Jack has met Nora by this point in time, so that is consistent with the time frame and her name being brought up. But what do you mean by phone associate?
It looks like she's met him for various reasons. And they're on the phone a lot together, but he's also, during this time period, I think I sent the decoded missive, but anyways, that he confessed to her about killing Donna Lass. And boy, just wait, I got some more you might be seeing. Is very macabre. But anyways, so he's in touch with her, and she's helping him, or he's trying to help her now also for helping him.
Wow. Well, and we know that Nora's family also, or maybe it was Nora. No, Nora's family is also originated out of Michigan as well. Because I know that they had family there per her phone book and her diary. And at that time, obviously, when we had the Minnesota murders that were occurring, we know that Jack was, or the Michigan murders were occurring, we know that Jack was in the Minnesota area. And I did actually come up with 2 unsolved murders in Minnesota. I just wasn't able to get very much information on them. And we're about 5 years away from that stuff anyways. All right. So
one thing, the keyword follow was also on that last document here. And what's that? Follows him from one end of his stuff to the other.
Follow me and they may catch me. Like both of those very.
Clova. He liked to interchange those 2.
Yeah.
That's loaded for bear. That's wonderful here. That's great.
Nice job.
Yeah.
All right. So that
asking me to. Thank you, Nanette. She asked me, "Can you decode this?" And then, like a half an hour later, I sent it to her.
Probably the smallest message. Go ahead.
Anyway,
probably the smallest message I've ever handed over to you. Well, that walks us right into the Zodiac versus the DC Freeway Phantom. And the handwriting that I initially started with. Wow, what happened to my images? That's interesting. Huh.
All right, Tom White, knock it off.
This was literally loaded with letters from Jack's just yesterday. Huh. Had all of the A's in it that were a match to the A's, which is what struck out in my mind. I know that there are particular letters that he paid particular attention to, but these letter A's were all consistent with Jack's handwriting. So now it looks like I'm going to have to go back and figure out what happened to that. Oh, yay. I'm sorry, you guys. This is an old presentation that I actually had fly-in parts to.
You probably got interrupted.
My apologies to Tom Boyd.
Well,
he's our go-to blame. That's that. If anything bad happens,
he still had the comments.
Oh, that's sad. I'm sorry too, Tom. I'm sure you're not a bad guy.
I'm not.
Anyway, so you can see all these you can see all of these letter A's up here. Come on, where is my mouse? Come on. All right. Oh, look, I've got more coming in. Let me just get these all up here.
Oh, wow, fancy. Too.
All right, there we go. So these are all the A's when this was way back early on in 2018.
Wow, that's weird. How are they coming in piecemeal?
Because I meant for that to happen so that as I was discussing each one, I brought them in. It's the effects on PowerPoint that you can do. Sure. You can cause things to fly in and pop out so that you can, Right. So basically that's what happened. I failed to remember there was any type of effects on these slides, but these are old slides. So right. But now you can see all those A's up there. You can see all the styles of the A's that Jack uses and how consistent from the secondary stroke you can see here because the thickness is greater than the rest of the actual writing itself. So we have that second stroke. We have the low crossing bar. We have it leaned to the right with one leg longer than the other. All of those were very consistent with what we saw Jack doing. And I'm just going to run through this because there's no need for me to beat up the handwriting again. We've already done this, like I said, months back. We did a complete version of all of the handwriting, so I'm just going to skip forward so that we don't bore ourselves to death. And that brings us back to Zodiac versus DB Cooper. Terry and I actually have this on the message board. So for anyone who is wanting to read up on all the research that we had done up to probably 2013, Terry, you continued after and adding stuff every year. But we pretty much are not really active on it anymore, but we collected a majority of the information I think that we probably could have. And that can be found at the https:// as in boy, forumchitchat.com. So for anybody who wants to check that, that's the link to go to the message board.
And you want to give the title of it too. It's the DB Cooper Caper Connected.
Oh, well, it has the threads for all the crimes.
Yeah, whatever that title is, absolutely says the sum of the evidence. I don't remember the exact title, but that's what you're talking about here.
I think you started that thread, right?
I did, and that was after you initially brought up the idea that Jack was involved in the Cooper caper and was right in the middle of it. I'm like, oh no, not another hit we're going to take for our credibility. I'm like, come on, But I took the deep dive in good faith because I knew your integrity is good, and I read. I knew you were right within a very short period of time.
You just gave me goosebumps, Terry. So you thought I was a nut job?
No, I didn't think you were a nut job. I just was like, and my initial reaction was going to be, kind of like some of the trolls would beat us up for and say, oh well, now she's including the DB Cooper caper, and like. Hey, no, take a look at the evidence. And that's what, and we worked on it. And I went and looked for things that, can I find anything that anybody's missed was kind of always been my approach to all this stuff. So I have one contribution to make and that was about where he jumped out.
Okay. And we're going to move on to that in a second. Harriet, what did you think when I said that Jack likely wrote the DB Cooper stuff?
I initially was a little surprised, but I think I was in contact with Dennis at that time period, and he was saying that the FBI was thinking that he was a pretty good suspect because of the location where they lived, the time period where he's remembering that night quite clearly, the night of DB Cooper. Jack comes home with a busted up shoulder because something happened in behind the Reno airport. So I said, well, here we go. Okay, we're getting on the fruit, the edges of everything. But I said, I think this is a possibility because even Dennis was saying he remembered that night clearly. So
wow. Yeah, so I did take a look at something that someone else had put together, and we're going to be covering.
Is Harry breaking up, you guys?
What kind of solidified my idea because while he was finding
everyone's breaking up.
While he was finding certain traits in these cutouts that came from Playboy magazines, he was looking at pages and juxtaposed to the pages he was pointing out, I'm finding what leads us directly into Zodiac land. I know that I know that there are several things that we're going to talk about as we go through once we get there, but I just wanted to cover some of the initial thoughts that Terry and I had. Terry, are you able to read this screen?
It's pretty fine print for me to read it. Why don't you read it for me?
Okay, it says, wow, what a revelation, Annette. One just can't make this stuff up. The taunting cutout letter sent in 7 days after the Cooper caper clearly shows that it was constructed to be decoded. Now, we know that you have DB Cooper, what is it called, Harriet? DB Cooper solved. You have DB Cooper solved. So you've actually worked on some of these letters.
I think I worked on all of the available communications.
Great, because we're going to be looking to put those in here shortly. You titled, or you sent me this new DB Cooper letter reveals intriguing new insights by DB Cooper Decoded. And I think this is the one the guy did from the Playboy magazines, right, Terry?
I think so, yes.
You said, if you check this out, notice the Playboy magazine that has the cutout for the D in DB Cooper came from a page that has an ad for a butane lighter. In the upper left-hand corner of that same page has the article titled Career Killers. Other pages that cutouts came from also have strong Zodiac Killer hints like Man and Beast. One letter was from a Joan Baez interview. Bow and Brummel page hints to the clip-on tie. Another is to a BF Goodrich faceless, nameless trooper ad. The W in town comes from DeWars profile, and DeWars is liquor, right?
Right.
Profile, etc., etc. There are more Zodiac Killer points to be gleaned from these mailings, like double postage, the JT initials, etc. He points out that the clip-on tie and other crime scene things weren't publicized at the time of this letter, and that the author of the letter knew what was correct and what was incorrect about the crime. I don't agree with his conclusion, but I have a perspective advantage that he didn't have. So he's really very brilliant to have come up with this. Either that, or he was tipped to look for these things. So you're talking about the person who decoded it?
Yep, absolutely. He was either tipped or he was. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what his name was. Was it Morford?
Well, this all kind of coming back to me as you're reading, because this was quite a while ago. I mean, this is over 10 years.
Oh, well, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
10 years ago at least.
Yeah.
Well, I think these 2015. So yeah, almost nine years ago at least.
9 years.
So I responded to you, hilarious, Terry B. You nailed it. As I was gleaning the articles for Substance and Art, I saw that about the career killers, giggled and thought, oh, that guy decoding it was so close to the meaning of that ad, but so far off. A lighter, eh? But he saw this as a hijacking instead of extortion. So I wanted everybody to understand that the FBI labeled the Zodiac case as extortion, which always boggled me because I thought he was a serial killer. He was a murderer. But they saw what he was doing, which was extorting the newspaper companies for information. What's that?
Yeah.
I said he was extorting. I'm seeing, by just even sending decoded missives to Nixon, he's saying what Nixon and his crew should know about. And that if he gets caught, this is going to happen. So helping out with some money. So he was extorting.
And that, that brings me to the fact that he wrote Hilliard. You came up with Hilliard, right? From the Oregonian? Hilliard was the editor. So we have him writing another editor of a newspaper for this particular crime. So just like in Black Dahlia, he wrote the LA Times. In Zodiac, he wrote San Francisco Chronicle and San Francisco Examiner. In the DB Cooper, he writes the Portland Oregonian. These are all telltale signs that we're dealing with the same person. He is definitely making it known to whomever, and maybe that was the handler of information at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's covering his tail.
Bill Hilliard. Well, I just want to say quickly, Bill Hilliard shows up in the Black Dahlia era. Then so he's now one of the top editors there. So it's like, he's in a way, and this is my opinion, being blackmailed to join all of this, and which is also to help pay off some other questionable crimes maybe in the past that most people thought were dirty. So he's involved in it. He's being blackmailed, put it that way.
Sure.
Oh, gotcha. So that's what you find in the DB Cooper solved.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. He's
okay. We'll get to that.
He's the editor.
So basically,
Wow.
Terry B had indicated that. Okay, stop saying that, Nolan. You're talking out loud.
Nolan's got a bad connection today.
I know he does. You got to move closer to the internet. Dan Cooper, Terry says Dan Cooper was what he put on the airline ticket. The media misreported the crime as DB Cooper. Now, the reason why they did that, Terry B, is that they believed that the suspect was an Oregon resident, and the only thing they could find in the phone book was a DB Cooper. So when they found this DB Cooper and attempted to question that individual, that then became the tagline for this caper. And yes, Dan Cooper is the correct name of the individual, or of the name that was placed on the ticket. It says, hence the hint about the B being wrong via the cutout letter, because in the cutout letters we see him putting down BD, which I presumed was his connection to Black Dahlia, but you're saying because they've got him wrong.
Yeah. And he puts BD Cooper and some of the other communications too, as we'll see.
Right.
Black Dahlia. So
go ahead, Harriet.
Oh, I was going to say, okay, you said it perfectly there, Terry B. Put the B and the D there. That's the hint. Like, this is supposed to be something to anagram. So, you'll get Daniel B. Cooper,
sure.
And more information in there.
Sure.
And Cooper, I think, was it the P that was backwards in one of them? So he's definitely playing with symbols and signs. But we're going to get to that. Let's get over. I want to list what we saw, Terry and I saw, as reasons to look at this case. He said if the guy's skunk cam actually did come across some hijack money placed neatly under a tree, then the implication would be that Cooper survived the jump. Right. The FBI has clearly been deceptive in their conclusions about the Cooper caper, especially in light of all the evidence that says that Cooper had esoteric information and the reports of the small plane crisscrossing the area a week in advance. Now, I want everybody to know that Jack also told Dennis that he was doing flying lessons, and he mentioned that they were with Arthur Lee Allen. So I don't know who was really the pilot of this particular adventure, but he had indicated on a couple occasions that he was familiar with Arthur Lee Allen, that he had a friend that he was flying with. Was Arthur Lee Allen known to have flown?
Oh, he was a pilot.
He was a pilot.
He's a pilot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Cooper clearly knew what he was doing. He didn't tumble out of the back of the 727 as the FBI would have the public believe. Also, I'm starting to think that cash wasn't actively tracked for fear Cooper might return and actually blow up the jet. You said, I'll edit this list as I discover things that bolster the fact that the crime was high tech. And this is, Terry B has been very opinionated on the fact that all of this had required lots of planning, lots of inside information, and was probably planned well in advance. And these are some of these points. He demanded 4 chutes. He picked the main chute with the manual ripcord. He used the reserve chute to house the money. He demanded that the landing gear remain down for more drag. He demanded specifically 15 degrees or flat for more low-speed lift and drag. These 2 last and very specific demands ensured that the jet speed would be reasonable for him. He demanded the SeaTac V23 route, which shows technical information was applied. He demanded that the money serial numbers weren't sequential. He knew about the fueling issues. He knew that the rear door and staircase could be opened in flight. He operated the cabin lights to thwart a sniper. He let the passengers go, which was smart thinking. He made the flight attendant write down his demands so they wouldn't have his handwriting. He was calm, cool, and collected, and he was polite. He opened the rear stairs and probably rode them for about 7 minutes, which shows he had a specific drop target. He may have dropped the 5800 intentionally, hoping it would be found so it would look like he failed in his mission, which would have given him an advantage. The exact amount of $200 could be carried in his pocket. However, more likely, he put rubber binders around the group of 5800 and blew it out of his raincoat and ended up in the Columbia River and floated to Tina Bar, where the water velocity is low and the wad of money then sunk. Rotary dredges would account for the rounded bill edges. He placed sunglasses on his face, which would act as goggles. He wore black clothes, including a raincoat. The loafers would make him look like a professional businessman he had been encountered on the ground. Evidence shows that he probably got the Dan Cooper name from a Canadian comic book hero, which I did find that information too. And we know that he's into comic books. Look at what he did with the Dick Tracy stuff, right? As the Zodiac.
Absolutely.
It says, if he had died on impact, his remains would have turned up a long time ago. Had he died on impact, the bag with the cash would probably have burst open. By Cooper stating that he was headed to Mexico. So now we have another reference to Mexico, which is tying back to the Tantamount letter we just talked about.
Absolutely. Everything he does that with everything he does. Go ahead.
That ploy allowed him to slip in a much earlier jump in the southwest area of Washington state undetected. All of these points taken together clearly shows that the FBI hasn't been truthful about the Cooper caper. No ifs, ands, or buts, period. Damn, I hate liars, especially by ones paid by the taxpayers of this country, especially by law enforcement agency that is supposed to be above reproach. Nice words, Terry. I got me some goosebumps there. So we have another extortion case, right? Because this is basically what it was. He extorted the airlines for $200,000, which puts it right in the realm of what Zodiac has been labeled in the FBI files.
Right.
At this point in time, I popped up because I hadn't been ready to talk about this stuff yet. I was still kind of keeping it close to the chest, but Terry B ran with it. So I said I have actually worked on this more than I've let on. I've been reviewing the files for a couple months now. Also look at the breakdown on the word hospital, itty. and we had the sensitivity.
Hospitality. Right. Hospitality, too.
The hospital is a cross connection of the Dear Draft Board letters and references in many communications that alluded to the fact that the killer was either dead, in jail, or in the hospital. There's an inner hatred for the VA hospital not being able to help him, I think. I mean, it's kind of the gist of what I get when he's complaining about being this control subject, if you will, for these experiments. This is true of the Letterman hospital nurses and key punch operators. We missed you last week, Harriet. We talked about the key punch operators and the hole punching that was done in some of the communications. What type of a key punch operator is that referring to?
Well, the key punch operator. Go ahead, Harriet. Go ahead. You want to answer that?
Well, wasn't the key punch operator one of them supposed to be one of the nurses that got killed?
Yes, but what is a key punch operator?
No,
they're in computers.
Right.
They're in a computer system.
Punch cards. We talked about IBM punch cards, were the way they held data in the old days. You had a punch card which held the pertinent information on, say, a patient or something like that, or a particular, and you'd file those hard. They were hard copies because data was
okay.
Data was not available. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Terry, but we talked about it being IBM last week. I just wanted to move forward. I wanted to know what Harriet's take was on it. So,
I didn't understand.
Oh my God!
So basically, this is
okay.
What's that?
There's a hint. I'm sorry. You just read about IBM key punch operators and all that. Yeah, I believe the system that Nixon used in his Oval Office had IBM computers.
Yep.
Oh.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Well, so it says this is true of the Letterman hospital nurses and key punch operator deaths, which also include the Sacramento nurses and Donna Lass, who initially came from Letterman General, but ended up in South Lake Tahoe. There were also a series of killings I have yet to bring up where the bodies were dumped within minutes of another veterans hospital, which I'm still working on as well. And thanks to YouTube person who put up their decoding of the letter, because it gives one more method that was used in coding during this time. And between Swearingen and Harriet, the decodes have yielded amazing messages never heard before, but right in line with what we know or believe is going on.
Yeah.
The infighting makes the most sense for the decoded messages. This means the person who committed this crime was well aware of the FBI tactics and their abilities, and that they were in fact experts in the Playboy magazines and knew them in and out enough to be able to recognize the fonts that were used. Or we are just touching the tip of what this was really about and what it was really meant to be.
Right.
So holding up with all the images posted, though, I asked Terry B to hold up on those postings. I want to use up my free space that I pay for. I think I was getting ready to like cross that level where once I put up too many more things, they were going to start charging me for images and things that I'd put on there.
Oh, okay.
I said, I need the right information put up first. Start with the handwriting examination. I don't want to put the horse before the cart. And I certainly have worked for too long on these things to have the easiest and obvious stuff pulled out before I'm ready to discuss the validity of the finds that I have long since made. So that was kind of just the gist. And then I went into what I said was matching. And so this list now is on top of what Terry had found. What I can say that is a match. Jack was a smoker, clue to Raleigh cigarettes. Bourbon was his drink of choice, clue to the drink Cooper had on the flight. Attaché was a well-used word in the Riverside Phantom crimes. And you were right, Terry. You pulled that out and said you didn't recall that. That was actually in the Kern letter in 1947, the real estate lady that he killed during the Black Dahlia era of murders. He used the word attaché.
Ramsey letter, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see. And the FBI believed the Zodiac suspect of many homicides up and down California predicted his future crimes. To what degree they hadn't said, but this is right up the alley of predicting crimes. Because this is in 1971 and then in 1996 with John Benet Ramsey, we see attaché again. The clip-on tie, I'm not sure what type of Jack wore. I've looked at his pictures to see if I could kind of determine or tell whether or not it was a clip-on. I wasn't able to determine that. I might go back and try and take another look. Matches versus a lighter. I gleaned actually career killers, which is what Terry found. I also recognize that Jack's MO is to give everything to possible meanings. Man and Beast is the Zodiac 408 cipher. Foot and wig ad is the disguise. Gin ad in the hourglass is a time reference. Joan Baez is military training. Encyclopedia ad meant that they were well read. The tire ad with masked police officer is a Western state and mask equals Texarkana and Zodiac. Yep. Magnavox ad is a radio and TV. Jack was the ham radio operator, and every letter has meanings related to it, just as the letters are decoding now for the Latin origin that Harriet had found. The divorce profile is the liquor ad and the professor or lawyer association. I'm not really sure where I put that one yet. Probably leaning more towards the divorce versus the liquor ad, or the professor or lawyer association. The system that beats the system. This is actually a statement made by D.B. Cooper in one of his communications. And we have the infighting of the FBI and the CIA going on at this time. The Medico lighter ad matches used by suspect, or as Terry B and I seen, the career killers. Everything you wanted to know about television by Ben Maslink. The incorrect D.B. Cooper reference. I'm not sure what that one meant yet. Maybe you're taking a little too much of a chance on love, giving too much info. The lazy pipe tobacco and Playboy Advisor, the cigarette smoker Raleigh's. It would be nice to know what kind of cigarettes Jack was partial to, but I never found that out. The suspect followed the news, what was publicized, what was not, and what was incorrect, just as stated by the FBI composite being wrong. So we are seeing him follow it, and then we're seeing him correct it, just like the Zodiac did. At that point, I said, I'm done for now, and I must stay on track with the grounding efforts. So back to the Zodiac handwriting. One more thing. The blue O from the Playboy cover in July 1970 is a woman upside down underwater, and the image almost makes it look like she is passed away, that she is drowned with her eyes wide open. Right. This gave me an eerie sense of the female waterway dumps that are so connected in many of the crimes, right down to the mescaline murders. Well, that leaves us for our last 60 seconds here, you guys. If you have something quick, please add to it. Otherwise, we have to sign off.
Lazy pipe tobacco, that to me could mean, either marijuana or heroin or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways. Reference.
Did you have anything to add, Harriet?
My birthday weekend, and it's going to snow here, so I'm going to have a happy birthday.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
To you. Happy birthday to you. What's that?
She's also a Pisces, like I am.
Yeah.
Is
yes,
your birthday
yeah.
month too, Terry?
No wonder. Yes, it is the 6th of March.
All right. Well, you guys, everybody have a wonderful weekend. Take care. We'll see everyone next week. And thank you guys for being here once again.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Love you guys. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stop flipping off.